So we are open for questions from the audience. Over there.
Hello, great to have you here. I have a question concerning Wide Earth. Could you tell us a little bit more about filming the movie? You work with Kevin Costner?
Well, you know, Kevin loves the West, and we were friends before. I really wanted the part that Michael Madsen played of Virgil Earp, and then Larry Kazan called, and he said, "I really want you to do this." And it was, you know, it was a small part, but it was a pivotal role in the history of Wyatt Earp. It basically takes place in 1869, and he takes my gun and my holster and all that, and he feels his power the way it was described by the director to me. And it was a pivotal role. And I remember the director saying, "It'll be in the trailer." And I said, "Larry, I really want to play Virgil, this bigger part, better part." And he said, "Trust me, it'll be in the trailer and you'll really like it. And I need someone as threatening as you are for this character of Ed Ross." And he was right. A year and a half later, the character was in the trailer. I had a great time. I cried when I left the set. That's how much I loved working. I mean, lobster and shrimp and oysters on the desert for lunch, you know? It was a great time, shot in Santa Fe. And, you know, it was the part where I get the cue ball thrown in my throat. And it was really great, you know, and I enjoy the genre so much. I go to the Hole in the Wall every year where Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid used to hide out. And I ride there every year for the last 25 years, 4 days in the saddle, 8 hours a day, and have a great time. I wish more Westerns like Wyatt Earp were being made.
What do you think, for you personally, has changed since you started in the business to nowadays?
I've become more jaded. In actuality, the business has changed, I think, more than I have, where, you know, in a sense, the agent business is disappearing, where there are very few career developers anymore. You've got to do it all yourself as an actor in California as well as New York. The process is now really agents book jobs, and you get an offer and they take care of you, but they don't really look as hard as they used to for work. And you can't make a living any longer guest starring on television. Years ago you could. The business itself is, they're very cautious because the dollar is so expensive right now that they really are afraid to make any mistakes. And as a result, you get a lot of scripts that, you know, have special effects and very limited stories and limited character development, but there's lots of explosions and lots of special effects for every scene. My favorite movie goes back as far as Casablanca, which is all character development and all about people that you learn to love as the film progresses. Well, today the movies are different. They're based on technology more so than people. And I think that's what changed for me in the business as I observe the business and watch it. And there's a lot of very young people making some very major decisions at the studio level, where the 28-year-old would make a decision. And you know, it's difficult because they don't have the background of a lot of these executives who have the same position, but were probably 20 years older and had seen 20 years of film and filmmaking, a lot more than the average 28-year-old who's probably a technological maven, and that's about it. That's his claim to fame.
So what are you doing at the moment? Interesting projects? What's coming next?
I just finished a couple of movies. One was very interesting. It was called Falcon Song. Falcon Song was the story of this, a character that was written as a wealthy landowner who's buying up all the mineral rights in this town in Montana. And his ancestors were pirates. And the story took place in about 1980. And I went to the director and I said, can we develop this pirate syndrome at a greater level? And I sent him about 10 pages of information about pirates, and he rewrote the character so that this character quotes Lord Byron, he quotes Robert Louis Stevenson, he has a sword fight at the end of the movie, he's a Jean Lafitte relative, a descendant of Jean Lafitte, and it was wonderful because it took the curse off of the character being the obvious villain, and you love him so much because he's so eccentric that I had a marvelous time working with a very flexible director, a young fellow. And it's called Falcon Song. Another one I just finished in Salt Lake. Terrific little movie with Anthony Michael Hall. And it was a police drama, very much like Lethal Weapon, which was very enjoyable. And I'm doing now an internet series called Six Gun Savior, which is a surrealistic Western, very much involving the devil, and Eric Roberts and I play the devil and the mentor of the devil, and we have a lot of fun, but it takes place in the Old West, so it's even more enjoyable.
So I think we have room for one more question. So if there aren't any questions, do you have anything you want to share with the German audience? Any final comments?
Well, I find that, you know, since I'm here, there's so many, you know, film buffs that I've chatted with, and it's good to see. It's my first time to Germany, and I'm going to go to Munich tomorrow, spend a couple of days there during Oktoberfest. I remember Winnetou was one of my favorites years ago, and there was a character called The Adventures of Lieutenant Blueberry, which was a French comic strip hero, a Western. And we were going to do these stories, and a lot of the books were printed in every language, a lot of them printed in German, and they were very popular in Belgium. And I remember being very excited to have, and there was a lot of German actors I had met in Paris before we did this project. Unfortunately, the money fell through back in the time, and to this day, I think they made the movie it was called Renegade with Vincent Cassel, and they did it with Spanish and French as a co-production. But it was called The Adventures of Lieutenant Blueberry, and in America it was released as Renegade. And to this day, I really wish that we could have made that movie, because all the partners would have been German and French. And I think that Europeans make films that aren't as large in budget, but I think they're more meaningful to the film colony. They're often more meaningful in the festival circuit than a lot of these big pictures done by the studios at $150 million budgets. They don't make any noise at all from an intellectual standpoint or an emotional standpoint. They're just a physical popcorn movie, and like Expendables 2, I enjoy that very much, but it's a popcorn movie. You know, I myself like to see things a little more iconic. One can't expect to see The Karate Kid very often, and it still holds up, you know, each time you see it. But there are so many marvelous small movies that I remember Carl May wrote all about the Old West, and he had never visited the Old West, and he was a marvelous German writer and wrote about the Old West, and Winnetou, those early movies, and I remember so many of the actors. They were so well versed in the old American West, and everything from whatever Gary Cooper did, or films that Kirk Douglas did, or Burt Lancaster, and James Stewart. And I remember so many European filmmakers and European fans of the movies coming to the States and talking to me whenever I met them on the set. And they were all so well versed in the American genre of the West, and I was always impressed. always impressed with the French and the German sense of what's appropriate and exciting in the film industry, you know? And that's it.
So, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Martin Kove. Thank you.